Welcome back to Anderson Acres. We're here with Tequila today, and Whiskey's sitting over here. But we're here with Tequila's having a moment. She had a busy day. There was a fox. So it's early in the morning, but still fox. So she's just going to take a odd-shaped nap on the couch. But I wanted to address an issue that somebody had asked me about. Somebody had asked, what do you do when it's your livestock who's being aggressive to your livestock guardian? So that's a good question, because it happens. It's not common, but it happens, especially with the larger animals. So you might have a horse or a larger goat take exception to your livestock guardians. So it is an issue. It's not super common, but it does happen. So what do you do about it? First of all, you have to assess whether or not the problem is actually the livestock. Make sure your livestock guardian is not doing anything to trigger it. Okay, so make sure your dog is not chasing the chickens. Make sure your dog is not nipping at the heels of your horse, or whatever it is. Make sure your dog is not responsible for that. That is a really important point, because you do not want to be getting mad at the livestock for things that are definitely not their fault. Okay? So, if it's not the dog's fault, okay? Assuming it's not the dog's fault. So this video is assuming your dog didn't do anything to provoke the aggression. So if your livestock is being aggressive and it's not your dog's fault, how does that manifest? Well, it depends on the animal. So I've seen chicken, good girl. They're weird. But I've seen chickens go after a puppy. I have seen sheep and goat ram a dog. I have seen horses and cows kick them. And I saw a pig chase and even bite a livestock guardian once. So it is important that you recognize that these are signs of aggression. Your horse should not be kicking your livestock guardian dog unprovoked. Now, sure, if the livestock guardian is all up in their butts or anything, then they might get a kick. That happens. But it shouldn't just be coming from the livestock. The cow shouldn't be walking over and chomping on your puppy. Okay, it's unacceptable to have your livestock being aggressive to your livestock guardian dog, especially when they're a puppy, because the puppy can then just... Okay, big sneezes. That was a moment. Big dog sneezes. Good girl. So, that was funny. Anyway, Whiskey, stop. Whiskey's being weird. So, your puppy could end up injured. They could end up being afraid of the livestock. They won't feel safe around the livestock. And if they don't feel safe, they're not going to bond to your livestock, which is the whole point of a livestock guardian dog. So, you need to address it right away. How you react is going to depend on the severity of the aggression. So if it's just minor, it probably means your livestock is just nervous. They're just still a little bit nervous. So in this case, maybe supervise your dog with the livestock for a little bit longer. Don't let the aggressive livestock directly near your puppy. Keep the puppy on a leash to give you some control so you can get the puppy out of a bad situation if you have to. And just allow everyone to get used to each other. Minor cases of aggression are usually just a nervous livestock, a nervous horse, a nervous goat. So a nervous animal is going to act out a little bit. So just take a little bit extra time, get the dog and the goat or the horse or whatever, let them have a little time to get to know each other a little bit better, and that should pass. If it's a little bit more severe, you might need to separate the aggressive livestock. So if you have one goat out of your entire herd that is going after your livestock guardian, you may need to remove that goat from the group for a little bit. Okay, remove them until the dog is fully trained so that the dog won't lash out against the goat, because you don't want that. So separate them until they're fully trained and happily protecting their livestock, and then introduce the separated one again. So do it slowly. It'll kind of reset the herd dynamics. Or the flock dynamics, depending on what you have. But it'll kind of reset the dynamics of the group, and the guy you bring back will be at the lower end of the pecking order. So you may actually have to separate the livestock that's acting up. sometimes there's no other way. Sometimes you have to do that. So you have to know, you have to keep an eye and figure out which animal is the aggressor. Because if it's just your goat ramming your dog because your dog started it, then you have to address the dog. If it's the goat starting it because the goat's just being aggressive, then you need to address the goat. So depending on the animal, you might train that animal. So if it's a horse kicking the dog for no good reason, you might need to train that horse a little bit. You might need to work with the horse. So obviously if it's chickens, remove the aggressive chickens. And then bring them back if you like, or rehome, or as in the case of one of my good friends just down the road, they go to freezer camp. If you don't know what freezer camp is, it's the euphemism for an animal that you ended up processing for food. So depending on the type of animal you have, they might end up in freezer camp if they're too aggressive. So yes, you're a good dog. Yeah. She is exhausted, as you can tell, because driving off a fox early in the morning, she didn't like getting up that early. So the fact that she had to is kind of bringing her down. So if you have aggressive livestock, you need to deal with that because your dog doesn't deserve that. And remember that if your livestock gets aggressive with your dog, dogs will defend themselves if they have to. So if you let the situation go unchecked long enough, do not be surprised if your dog lashes out. If I had a goat ramming me every single day and not for fun, so you might have seen videos where Arwen kind of half rams whiskey or tequila. They want to play, okay? They play together. That's not the same as aggression. You can tell the difference between a goat's headbutt that is aggressive versus, hey, play with me. Hey, play with me. Hey, pay attention to me. That's a different kind of action. Even though it's the same motion, you can tell, right? You can absolutely tell. If you spent any time around your goats or your sheep, you can tell when it's a serious kind of thing versus I'm just kind of playing with you kind of thing. So you need to address it in your livestock. That doesn't mean you have to get rid of the livestock, because what's the point of the livestock guardian dog without livestock to protect? But you do need to address it. Don't let it go unchecked, because it can make the livestock guardian dog have to lash out on their own. They might have to defend themselves. It's not fair to expect them to never react if they're being picked on by aggressive livestock. So you absolutely need to address it for the sake of your livestock guardian dog and the sake of the livestock. So take care of it immediately, okay? Remember that if your livestock's kind of still nervous, just keep the dog at a distance. Slowly decrease that distance until all the livestock accepts them. And that works 90% of the time. Once in a while, you do have an animal, not the dog, but your goat or your cow or whatever, that is just deliberately being aggressive and has nothing to do with being fearful or nervous. It's just the way they are. So then you have to address that differently by removing that animal from the herd for a little while. However, most of the time it's simply that the animals are nervous and you kind of expected too much too soon. So back off a little bit, let everyone get used to each other, and obviously let your dog stretch out on the couch and take up the entire couch, because there's not any room for anybody else. Anyway, that is about it for us here today in Henderson Acres. I hope you enjoyed watching Tequila take a nap. Yeah, groaning. Now she's groaning on the couch because she's exhausted. So that's about it for us here today at Henderson Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.